What's up, everybody? Joseph R. Wheeler, the third artist founder and the president of the Honest Con Foundation, giving y'all an update on movies, shows, things of that nature, as you can always expect. Every so often we're going to give you, and this one is about Secret Invasion. How many of y'all been watching Secret Invasion? I call it the Nick Fury show. You know what I'm saying? I almost wish they had named it Nick Fury Secret Invasion because he deserves it. Samuel is the man. You understand what I'm saying? Get a man his props. Samuel needs to be a statue sitting right next to the Hollywood sign in California for as much money as all the movies this man has been in that have made that type of money. He deserves it, okay? He's a legend. All right, so let's talk about it. First and foremost, it's on Disney Plus if you're not aware. Right, so the show is about, basically, without me giving away any major spoilers, a Skrull invasion. As you know, the Skrulls were kind of mostly introduced in Captain Marvel. Anyway, so Jackson's character as Nick Fury was in that, and we saw a younger version of him. And we got an introduction to how the Skrulls came to Earth and had been blending in, morphing, and changing their appearance to look like regular people for a long time. They've been amongst us, right? And the Skrulls are these alien green creatures from a planet that had all of this unrest to the point where they had to leave their planet. They go seeking. It's basically a refugee story. You know, everything's symbolic in good writing. So this is basically a story about the concept of refugees on a global scale. It's not really pointing at just, you know, Africans or Latinos or European immigrants or any immigrant in the history of humanity. It's more about the collective history of humans as refugees seeking asylum in other countries and the conflicts that come of that. People not wanting them, people not accepting their being and wanting to work with them and assimilate with them or assimilate them into their cultures or bring them in and give them, you know, a place to live and be safe, etc. So in this situation, Nick Fury had basically made a promise to the Skrulls. I don't think that's a spoiler, is it? If there's some spoilers, get over it, all right? Go watch the show. What's wrong with y'all? Anyway, so basically, he made a promise to the Skrulls, some Skrulls seeking asylum on Earth. And if they would work with S.H.I.E.L.D. and help protect their interests of his interest for working with S.H.I.E.L.D., the government of course, and the American interests especially, then he'd do what he could to help them out. Some other Skrulls that weren't feeling that or being impatient with Nick Fury's methods grew tired of that and decided to rebel and just basically create an invasion atmosphere where they morph into other looks of other people, other human beings, and confuse people and cause all kind of hell on Earth, right? And we find out in the show that the Skrulls are part of even the U.S. government and military. So it gets really deep because the Skrulls could be anybody. And I think it's really phenomenal writing because it's metaphor. It's metaphor for, you know, you see crazy things happen in the world. You say, man, these people, are they even human? What's wrong with you? What human being could do that to other people? What human being could go to that level? So, you know, it creates the metaphor of they're not even human. They're just these aliens that are, you know, but here's the duality is some of them are not ominous. Some of them are friends to humans. Some of them just want to live in peace and get along with everybody and have a life. They just need help. All right. So it's just like there's enemies and then there's non-enemies. You know, yes, there could be a threat, but not everybody who's seeking asylum in this way is a threat. Again, the metaphor of immigrants. It's like, yeah, everybody running from a bad situation in our country that's got conflict and issues to another country that's got conflict and issues is not always out to destroy. Some people just want to live a good life, give people a chance to live that good life, especially being that, okay, S.H.I.E.L.D. represents the United States, and the whole mythos of the United States is land of the free. We open our borders to anybody if you'll accept our way. But what is that way when there's already conflict amongst the identity of who are real Americans, when some folks don't even want to give credit to people who were enslaved in this country, okay? And to this day have to still fight for their rights as human beings, as citizens, as everything, right? So you see all the metaphors. And there's a lot of diversity amongst the cast of who are Skrulls. You got black folks, you got white folks, you got Latinos, you got Eastern Europeans, you got Western Europeans, you got everybody, yo. For real, you really got everybody. And I like that they're doing this. It's a great, great, great artistic metaphor. It's what art should be on this level of art. All right. The other great thing about this show I love is the acting. As an actor myself, SAG eligible, we support the strike, go SAG, and go Writers Union. Forever and a day. We need all of everybody on board, because when y'all get yours, we need to trickle down all the way to background in Atlanta, Georgia, and everywhere else to get our rights. Side note, that's because I'm not going to stay in background, but people like me who made it to SAG eligibility know how long it took to finally get an opportunity to speak on something. We deserve equal pay. We deserve the Cali rate in Atlanta. Y'all getting the tax incentive, come with the funds. Let's go. All right, back to business. So, because it's all relative. It's all related. Yes, it is. So in this Marvel show, right, Nick Fury is the black version of Nick Fury. And I mention that because, for some of y'all, if you've only been watching the movies and shows, you're like, what do you mean? What does he mean by black? He's always been black. No, the original character in the comics was a white guy, okay? He was still a secret agent. He still had all these fighting powers and smooth panache and charisma and everything, and handled the Daredevil secret agent jobs and stuff, right? He was still that dude, but he was a white guy first. That was the original character. That's how he was created. And later on, at a certain point in Marvel's history, with doing new stories and new ideas, they decided to make him a black character, just like they flipped a lot of characters over the years. They've done gender swaps. They've done ethnic swaps. I personally don't have an issue with this, unless, I've always said, as soon as this started in the movies and the comics, I've always said there are limits. And I'm getting to a point on how this affects this show and how I like that it affects this show. There are limits. I've always said, if you got to the point where in Thor, for example, I love Idris Elba's character, and I don't have a problem with him being where he is in the whole pantheon of all the characters, right? But I would have an issue if in Wakanda, for example, it's all mythos in the Marvel sense of everything, playing off of real elements. That's the thing. Everybody loves to say, yeah, but it's all made up anyway. Yeah. But what it's made up of, all of that matters. So I'm saying in the sense that they basically borrow from all 54 modern countries' ancient histories to create what we see on screen when we think of Wakanda. So if there were a what-if type story and you want to change and be like, we're going to have the first European Black Panther, I'd be like, wait a minute now. Golly, can you please stop the madness, right? I'd be offended. So I have no problem with when people have gotten offended with some of the swipes of ethnicity and things for some of these characters, but only if, I always give the argument, only if you're literally trying to make it like it's just another alternate version in a different world, but you never deal with that person's ethnic background. You act like it doesn't matter. You act like all human beings are just, skin tones and features and elements that make us what we are, but none of that. It's just, we're all the same. No, we're all human, but we're not the same. We are different in our uniqueness, and that's what makes each person and each culture and ethnicity special. There's nothing wrong with the differences. It needs to be celebrated in its differences. I've never had a problem with that. I have a problem with total non-inclusion, but all of the market. You are not allowing anybody from the independent to rise up and get a stronghold enough to have a piece of the market, so you dominate every damn thing, and then on top of it, you force feed us your version of life and reality. Okay, there's the problem. There's why we have our own. There's why we want to see more diversity within the mainstream. This is the conflict. So the thing I love about this show is, for the first time in Nick Fury's introduction as a black man, you get to see him give monologues that reflect a black man's experience in America, which is diverse. That is not monolithic either, but it's relatable to anybody who came up the way I did. When you hear him in a one scene perspective, off the top of my head, I would say he was on the train with his Skrull friend who's being disguised as a white guy who, if you've watched the Captain Marvel movie, you know who I'm talking about. But anyway, they're talking and it's such a brilliant piece of art for what it is to do this as an actor, and I know how this is to work this. But he's alluding to something through his story to his friend to get him to admit something. And he tells a story about riding on a train, because they're on a train, and he talks about how back when the segregation was still going on, and his mom and him, they used to ride on this train, and they had to bring their own food because they weren't allowed to go get the food that was available on the trains. So mama would make fried chicken, and she would have biscuits, and she would have all this other stuff that could, wouldn't have to be kept cold, that you could eat at room temperature, and he would just love it, and it would make it a beautiful trip out of something that would have been a nightmare if you didn't deal with the racist elements you had to deal with, that you couldn't, get food. You had to bring all this stuff with you. And it was just real because I didn't live that, but I've lived trips like that, even after quote unquote segregation in the Deep South. I can remember going on trips where we had to do that because we weren't going to be able to stop and get nothing. So we packed stuff and we ate a lunch like that. And then I also know stories of my parents telling me what they went through during the time of that actual whites only, colored only sign era. And my grandparents talking about that and about how, people see the show, Lovecraft Country and think, oh, it's just a marvelous show. What a great fantasy metaphor about racism. No, it's a brilliant fantasy metaphor about racism that actually was. They really put a monster face on real life monsters of people that were literally doing this stuff to people. All of the racist folk, the cops and the crazy town people in that show, talking about Lovecraft Country, that was real. That's really how it was. And unfortunately, in some places in this world can still be that level of racism. So when you see that done in a metaphor of science fiction so well done, oh, what an awesome experience as a sci-fi fan. But the other great thing about it was it's teaching history, it's edutainment. So you see that in this show with Nick Fury. You see him talk about that, and then you get him seated into what it is to not just be this character who was flipped into a black guy. No, we're going to make him a real whole human being. He is a black man. It's not he kind of black and he just serves the government. No, he knows who he is and he serves the government. He got a job, but he knows who the hell he is. And he knows the country he's fighting for and all of its problems and its advantages. So even also one of the greatest face-offs, as soon as I saw the introduction to this scene, I lost it. I was so hyped. I rewound certain parts. I rewatched. It was so good. This show deserves Emmys for some of the monologues and some of the character face-offs, interactions between characters and intimate scenes where they really have great dialogue. The writing is excellent. And you can tell in this, there had to have been some ad-libs, a lot maybe. But Don Cheadle's character as War Machine, right? And Samuel's character as Nick Fury have a sit-down at a certain point in the storyline. And I'm not going to give away everything that comes out of this, but let's just say they have a conflict because some actions that Fury does puts my man Cheadle's job in, War Machine in jeopardy. And he's basically kind of telling him, I can't stick my neck out for you and lose everything for these mistakes you're making, man. And Fury is kind of like throwing the black card at him on some brother stuff like, hey, man, come on, man. We got to stick together. Work with me. I got a plan here. It's going to all work out and you'll look good in the end. He's like, dude, I ain't got time to worry about what you talking about. I got to keep my job. So kill all that black stuff. This ain't about that. This is about me keeping my job. And it was another moment that, again, we're at a time in history where damn near everybody's cultural experience is online in some form or fashion with social media, to the point where everyone tries to get a little comfortable and think they understand all the ins and outs of what it is to be any particular ethnicity. There are still some unique things to just being of that group. And I promise you, being black, that scene hit so hard and was hilarious to me because it just is so layered. And like I say, if you are black, you're going to feel it even more. And again, these are the reasons why I love this show so much, because I'm seeing Samuel's version of Nick Fury as a black man, not just, oh, we made him black. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I might buy the action figure because I love to see a black character. No, what about him makes him relatable to anybody else's black experience? And that's so many experiences. They didn't make him super hooded anyway. Oh, I came from so much hell. And they did throw in that he said he was from a single mom. I thought that was kind of, here we go again, same old, why couldn't he still have a father, damn it? But it is what it is. He's still this strong character that I respect a lot. And I just love the fact that no matter what happens to him, and whoever thinks they've got him down, he's always got another ace in the hole waiting to put on the table and be like, y'all better recognize I'm Nick Fury. That's my dude. So I'm not going to give away any more character elements and plot things. I will say I do like the villain, the antagonist, should I say. Here's a show that's got elements where your antagonist, villain, is really a guy who you can understand. I love a good villain that I can understand why he's mad and why he's causing so much hell. Yes, he becomes a monster and somebody you don't like and that you want to see taken down. But at the same time, you understand why he's pissed off. You understand the frustration of why he's fed up and done with waiting for a handout, so to speak. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But he does a marvelous job. He's British. I'm assuming, I haven't looked up his history, but I know he's got the accent. And he's a black guy who's light-skinned, who just has a really tough look, and he was perfect for casting. I think they did a great job of picking him. He's not even, like, the way he plays the character and the fact that you know he's a Skrull, no matter him and all the other Skrulls. I love the fact that it challenges your mind to not get so caught up in, oh, this guy's black, this guy's white, this guy's Asian, they're all Skrulls. The people you know are Skrulls. And I love that every so often we get that reminder, because if they get wounded, they transform back to who they really are, and you see them for what they are. And that makes it more enticing to me as a sci-fi fan. It really makes it really layered, great acting. Also will say, I'm not going to give away anything, I'm just going to say the lady who plays, who we get revealed to be the love of Nick Fury's life, I'll just say that. That was so powerful. And all of her monologues were incredible. These are the reasons why, in addition to the young lady who plays the daughter of Nick Fury's best friend amongst the Skrulls who help him, tough and badass. I mean, shout out to the stunt team too. Some of the fighting scenes, like, you boom, bam, pow, pow. I've seen that kick. I've seen that before. I've seen that wrist break. They threw in a few new ones for you amidst what you're used to seeing, and kept the action on some, oh, snap. Like, you got to make me do that for me to be impressed with the fight scenes. And they did it. Even the gunplay scenes, crazy. On that, I have to shout out, again, characters, I don't know names. I might edit back in and show y'all faces and names. But the lady who is an agent friend of Nick's, who is British, who is so like she's hilarious. She's like the prim proper assassin. She'll come in, oh, jolly good fellows, what a good time. Oh, you must have a problem, don't you? Pow! Just taking fools out. She is hilarious. I love that character. She is the truth. It's like every time she shows up, I'm just like, who about to get it? Because if anybody mouthed off the wrong way, she ain't waiting for no explanation. You go! And I love her character. Hilarious. Like I say, watch this show. You won't be disappointed. And if it started off slow for you and you fell asleep on it, cut it on again. I promise you it gets better. Trust me. Peace, y'all.